Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brothers and sisters, welcome. Thank you very much for coming on time. Let me welcome everybody before I hand over to the chair, the formalities, the program outline. Really privileged today. We're going to be holding the Hadith and the Development of Western Historical Critical Methods course. And it's going to be delivered by Professor Jonathan Brown and Shaykh Dr. Akram Nadwi. He's going to be joining from 12 o'clock onwards. Everybody should have received a program outline, a rough outline of the schedule of the day. You'll have another piece of note, which is some thoughts on the subject by Dr. Akram, but he's going to talk about that more. There will be PowerPoint slides as well, which will be given to you. The slides the Professor's going to be going over as well. We're just printing it out at the moment, so you can get it around just before lunchtime. It's being recorded, high quality, by Tariq Chowdhury. So inshallah, once it's done, we'll put it on the website where you can download it, live stream it. We're going to be recording all of our stuff. I know last 15 years I haven't bothered recording it because simply I want people to come and make an effort, but I've realised I shouldn't do that. Some people are really missing out. And so, inshallah, you will get a chance, and we'll send you the link for you to download. Now, the formalities are obviously we have about 5 sessions today, as you can see, and they're quite flexible. Each session's around 45 minutes to an hour, about half an hour lecture, 40 minutes or so, and then half an hour Q&A. So it's really going to be a lot of solid Q&A through each session. There are 4 sessions between 9 and 10 is the first session, then we'll have a break around 10 o'clock, and the second session between 10:15 and 11:15. The subjects are flexible, but those are the subjects we'll be covering. Everyone should have received a reading list, pre-reading list. If you didn't get a chance, not a problem to read or to brief yourself in subject. So what we want is qualitative questions. Mashallah, we've got the creme de la creme of the Muslim community here. I can see, mashallah. So it's really amazing to see, and really proud to see that, what we're trying to do, we're raising the discourse with all of our courses. We've got some fantastic lineup of speakers. Next year we have William Chittick and his wife. We also have Professor Ibrahim Musa from Duke University. We're hoping to confirm Professor Saeed Hussein Nasser as well. He's going to be doing modern philosophy. So all of these great academics are coming next year. Yahya Misho is going to come again. He's going to do on Ibn Sina. So he's launching his new book on that. So we've got some very high-level ulama and academics who are going to be coming and delivering the courses. But anyway, going back to today's program, and then Shaykh Akram's going to join us around 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock, so his session is going to be after Dhuhr. So Dhuhr is around 1 o'clock. We're going to recommend everyone go to the Good Street Mosque, because it's just only about a couple of minutes away. There are sisters' facilities there, that's around, and then everybody should be back by 2 o'clock. We want to make a prompt start because there's a lot to cover, and I'm sure you have zillions and zillions of questions with regards to subject. It's just coincidence. It just happened, with the YouTube video, and then Tom Holland's thing. We just planned this quite some time ago, but we didn't realise all of this. So don't worry, there's no conspiracy theory, so to speak. At the afternoon, Dr. Akram's going to be talking about a traditional muhaddith response, and again he's going to giving some new insights, because he's writing a excellent introduction. He's got his own commentary on Sahih Muslim. It's a project we're going to be supporting as well. So again, it's something revolutionary, very different. So Dr. Akram is going to really enlighten us, and then we're going to have a panel with both Professor Jonathan and Shaykh Akram. So again, this is the start of many, where you have leading traditional ulama, and at the same time leading academics. It's never been done before. We've done it before, but again, we want to raise the bar. I think there needs to be more of this discourse amongst our ulama, traditional ulama, and our leading academics, because at the end of the day, it's the benefit of all society, not just Muslims, because at the end of the day, we want the truth. That's the most important thing, inshallah. So I'm going to hand it over to my chair, Andrew Boso. Andrew Boso is an well-known Islamic writer. He blogs on sahibweb.com. I don't think Andrew needs no introductions. Andrew's going to do a quick introduction to the subject. He's going to introduce the professor. As I said, brothers and sisters, we are recording it. There's a lot of people still coming, so you might have to stand up. If you are sitting, please, if you don't mind, if you could fill up the seats in the middle. And those who are sitting at the back, again, fill up the seats in the middle. So if people do join you, or if you're on the side, so they don't, to minimise disruption and noise, it'll be easy if you could move down so to speak. If you've got mobile phones, if you could switch it off or put it on silent, or any other devices, you're just going to make a noise, because we want absolute 100% attention. And again, during the questions and answer sessions, keep your questions to the point. Be concise if you want a concise response, if you want a response. And also, if you want to comment, keep your comments to about 30 seconds or so, not too long. If you have long comments to make, write it down in an email or something like that. I'm sure the professors or doctors, chefs can respond later on. Okay, so I don't want to blab on too much because it's coming up 9:15 and we want to get on with the project. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to our chair for the day, Brother Andrew Bosa. Bismillah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's my pleasure just to emphasize Mizan's words to welcome you to this what we hope is an interesting and unique event, not just for Britain but in general. It's hoped to be the first in a series whereby we try to match Western-style academics appropriately with classically trained expert Muslim scholars. And the two traditions have historically had something of an animosity, certainly a distinction between them. And both have positives, both have negatives. So with Western academia you have a sort of explorer spirit, and I don't mean that with colonialist connotations necessarily, but an explorer spirit in the sense of wanting to push the boundaries, explore things, maybe not accept certain trends as absolute norms that have to be accepted. Negatives, perhaps sometimes, certainly in the field of hadith, that explorer spirit getting them into terrain which is somewhat difficult for their capabilities. So maybe dealing with a lack of sources or jumping to too many rash conclusions. And that might be something I'm sure that's going to be discussed by our speakers today. Looking at traditional Muslim scholarship, positives of course being the depth and breadth, the many sciences which are generally studied in universities. Just recently Shaykh Muhammad Hassan Dadu was talking about how the graduates of his markaz were worth more than 52 PhDs, which it's a rhetorical statement, but what he's trying to emphasize is that generally, and it's a point which Ahmed Ash-Shamsi has recently made as well in one of his reviews, that the depth that Islamic scholars generally plunge is not something which Western academics and Islamic studies generally tend to do. So that's a positive from the Muslim tradition. One of the negatives, as pointed out by Shaykh Abul Hassan Ali Nadwi in many of his works, rahimahullah, is that certainly from the 17th century onwards, there was a level of intellectual stagnation, inertia, what he called a fossilization of syllabi across the Muslim world, from Al-Azhar down to India. So there's certainly potential for both sides to be able to interact through a dialogue to try and benefit from each other, and that's one of the reasons why we hope that we can, inshallah, match people from the various traditions so that there can at least be some sort of mutually beneficial dialogue. In terms of hadith studies, there has been historically a great divide between the classical Muslim tradition and Western academic thought. There has been an improvement, certainly from the mid to late 20th century, whereby classically the classical Muslim presentation or methodology has been presented more in English, looking at pioneers like Muhammad Amin al-Misri, Shaykh Mustafa al-Azami, may Allah increase his life and his health, improve his health. Leading on then even to certain Western academics utilizing a more classical methodology, and perhaps the most significant recent example of that is Harold Motsky and his approach to his Isnad Kam Matan method. However, there is still room for improvement. I mean, for instance, Ahmed al-Shamsi, when reviewing one of the books that Motsky co-wrote, did mention that it's a work in progress, and it's certainly a very important development, but it's a work in progress, and that Western academic sources could benefit from looking at 3rd to 4th Hijri century works and delving into those, into that literature. And he mentions that there are 3 examples of how that beginning work could look. And he mentions Sharif Hatim al-Auni, who's in al-Qura in Makkah, Scott Lucas, and Jonathan Brown. And so, as Dr. Brown himself has pointed out in one of his reviews, I think on Joinable, in his conclusion, mentioning how really the field of hadith studies is a developing field, it's an underdeveloped field. But as Shamsi has pointed out, scholars like Dr. Brown, Dr. Lucas, etc., have made significant strides to at least presenting the classical Muslim perspective. Now, moving on to our first presenter, Dr. Jonathan Brown, undergraduate in history from Georgetown University, then Arabic studies, returning to University of Chicago for his PhD thesis. Dissertation has been published as the Canonization of al-Bukhari and Muslim. And he's also authored another book called Hadith, Muhammad's Legacy in the Medieval and Modern World, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he's also, even since his postgraduate studies, has been an author of numerous seminal essays on the hadith literature. And it's true to say that his essays on Ziyadat al-Fiqh or Matan criticism amongst early scholars, the use of weak hadith, Daraqutni's work on the Sahihain, etc., have really added to the understanding of hadith literature in Western academia. And we hope that today we can have a good introduction to that sort of scholarship. 2 main features, I would say, that stand out about his scholarship is, one, the breadth of positions that he portrays in his essays and in his writings. So he doesn't come from a strictly ideological position. You can read across the various positions from early scholars, Bukhari, Abu Zur'a, Abu Hatim, Abu Hatim al-Razi, etc., going through then to Hakim, Daraqutni, Bayhaqi, Nawawi, Asqalani, then even to modern 20th century scholars, so the Ghumari brothers, Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda, as well as Albani, and then even more contemporary with people like Luqman al-Salafi, Hamza Mali Bari. So what you get is a very good breadth of the various opinions in contemporary as well as classical hadith studies. And the second aspect is his respect for presenting the tradition as it is. And so he does note in the introduction to that book, it's on my table, I meant to bring it up, but he was making some corrections to it, where he does mention in the beginning how it would take a lifetime to read the works of people like Bukhari, Dhahabi, and Ibn Hajar, and 2 lifetimes to keep up. And really, one of the key aspects is his presentation of their theories, which has certainly enriched studies, and it's a respect which is welcome. So with that, I'll welcome Dr. Brown to the podium.